What's happening, guys? Happy Wednesday, and welcome to the Dynasty WarZone, the People's Dynasty podcast. On today's show, we're actually going to take a little bit of a break from the stock up, stock down thing that we've been doing so far this season, and we're going to play Future Predictor. We're going to look into the future. We're going to tell you who are the 2024 Dynasty breakouts. But my co-host is a man who broke out years ago. He is a very valuable veteran. You know him better as the man of the hour and the man with the power, Jerry Sinclair. Buddy, what's going on?
Nothing, man. I am excited. I broke out like Dante Foreman. It took me about 6 years. It's going to be 1 week, and then I'm going to fall off the face of the earth. I am good. How was Vegas? You actually got a vacation from me for a week, which is probably wonderful for you.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. First of all, Vegas was good. We were in Vegas for 2 days. We went to Zion National Park for 2 days, and I highly recommend both. It was a good mix of outside and nature, and then obviously urban and city and casino. But I want to say you and producer Kevin had an absolutely wonderful show. You talked a little shit about your boy here, a little bit, just a little bit. Southernly grandpa sayings was a phrase that I heard, and I actually giggled out loud when you said
I
it.
only say that because my grandpa is from Arkansas, and he has just off the wall nut sayings just like you always do, which is why I always write yours down, because it just reminds me of that so much.
There's so many good ones, and you can't like put them all together. You can only remember them as they come up. But I thought you and Kev had an absolutely wonderful show. Now, I said at the top of the show, happy Wednesday. Jerry and I are recording on Wednesday night for a Thursday morning podcast, and a Thursday. It's 5 o'clock evening, or is it afternoon? I think that's like an opinion thing.
Yeah, I'm an afternoon guy there, probably.
I am too. I don't think evenings till like 7. 7 feels like evening. I think
prime
6
time.
is the grade.
Prime time games are like 7:30, 8 o'clock. That's evening.
I will allow it. So then Thursday afternoon, 5 p.m., this will be streamed up live on YouTube. I guess this will be live to you. And shout out to Brittany from the graphics department for the sweet thumbnail graphic for this show. Really awesome. Again, Player Profiler YouTube channel, Dynasty WarZone YouTube channel. And if you're listening to this on audio, you're only subscribed to one feed, subscribe to both feeds. Pretty please and thank you. That helps us grow the show, and it is a free way for you to help us. Literally subscribing to our YouTube and podcast channels, it costs you nothing, a couple of seconds, and believe it or not, it helps way more than you think. And then, Jerry, I've got to tell you about one of the hottest shows on the Player. Speaking of Player Profiler, got to tell you about one of the hottest new shows on there, Dear Ms. Fantasy with Tara Victoria. Hey, it's a lady. You know, you don't get a lot of ladies doing content more than ever, which is great, which is good. And it's awesome to have a female teammate here at the Player Profiler Network, Jerry.
True. I mean, anything's better than me, too.
This is true.
Maybe let's be honest. No. I like doing this podcast, and I don't want to be replaced, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, we're not trying to replace you.
It's bad enough that Kevin's trying to already.
We were going to have Kevin on, but he's obviously busy producing the show. But don't miss the Dear Ms. Fantasy show with Tara Victoria. You can find it right here on the Player Profiler YouTube and podcast networks. Jerry, let's jump into good people, bad tweets. But before we do, let's hear a word from Bettle.
Oh, I see it every day online, every single day. Hey, that looks like a great fantasy team in an 8-team league. Oh, wish I could be in a league with you, right? Well, guess what? Now you can respond with, sure, let's play on Bettle. That's the beauty of this platform. This new Bettle platform standardizes all position scoring. So you just load your team and you challenge your friend, your colleague, Twitter troll, and you can browse other teams and issue challenges. Bettle is revolutionizing fantasy football. And with code Underworld, you get a $100 instant deposit match plus a free $10. So even if you deposit $20, you get $50. Think about that. So go to Bettle.com. The code is Underworld. Bettle.com. The code is Underworld. Or click a link in the description. It's fun to be right.
A little Bettle action, Jerry. I've got
It's
some
fun to be
Bettle
right.
credits. They hooked me up. I've got to challenge you. I got to challenge you. I mean, I beat up on you every week in fantasy football, but yeah, man, give Bettle a try. Promo code Underworld. All right, Jerry. I know you guys did this last week. You didn't have Dana White here on the soundboard. That's okay. I got it. We got a good people, and this tweet is a tweener. Obviously, Alec Bama at Alec Bama is an Alabama fan, I would assume, if not a hell of a play on words. And I like this tweet and I don't like this tweet. And it says, fantasy football content aggregators want to boost and parrot every little analytic and stat except for the one that's the easiest to record, their track record. Now, when I hear that, I've never been shy on this program about sharing both my success and failures in any given league. We talk about trades. We talk about a lot of times the trades that we make. Actually, later in the show, we're going to talk about a trade that Jerry makes. You know, I've humble bragged about the leagues that I'm in with my peers, our peers in the Dynasty fantasy football content creation space. And I've been very successful, but I don't do it because I feel like I need to be accountable. I do it because I'm a Dynasty gamer, just like you. I love this game. I play it passionately. I will tell you, this is going to sound like I'm trolling, and I'm not. But I have more of a hard time in our patron leagues than I do in these industry leagues. I mean, not saying I'm whooping up on them all the time, but I'm doing okay. But I don't bring it up on the show to brag. That's not true. I bring it up to brag, but I also bring it up just as a way of saying that I'm a Dynasty gamer just like you. And I don't think necessarily, like I saw this tweet today, and then I saw another person tweet weekly league accountability. I'm like, what? You're not accountable to anybody but yourself, dude. Relax. Jerry, do you feel accountable to Twitter and anyone else but yourself when you play Dynasty because you create content?
No, for one, self-deprecation is absolutely my game, especially when it comes to content creation. But also, I am not silent about why I do this. It's because I have played this game for a good amount of time with a lot of leagues, which gives me a nice data set. And I just try and learn from the mistakes, which is why I bring them up. How many times have I talked about Corey Davis? And how many times have I talked about Hakeem Butler? And now I'm talking about Najee Harris. I mean, tons of them.
And I don't have to bring up my own mistakes because you and Kev did a great job bringing all of them up last week.
Well, I mean, he was taking swings, but it's okay. The Phillies lost, so if you want to take a shot at him, he's probably a sad fellow right now. But I do tend to sort of agree with the tweet in the sense that just tooting your own horn all the time makes you sort of a fart sniffing turd, and it makes me just not want to listen to you at all. But
I'm in 23 leagues. How am I going to tell you how I'm doing in 23 leagues? I'm just like you.
And some of them are built purposefully to lose. Like I have some teams that are 0-7. I only have one team that's undefeated though, but that feels good. So like if I put my overall record up there, yeah, it's probably above the 500 mark. But also there's several teams that are just not built that way, and it's going to skew my record, even though actually that's what I'm going for. That's me helping that team out. I don't know. So I get it. I don't like saying, your win and losses in leagues determines how smart of a person you are. It should be based on players and their situations and their contracts and their money and analyzing everything as it is, because everything is not fluid in this game.
Nobody wants to hear about 23 or 24 leagues that I'm in, and no one wants a dissertation or a complete rundown. Know that I'm just like you, that if you play in multiple leagues and you listen to this show, Theo and the Podfather and those guys on the Sonic Truth, or just anybody, we have some leagues that we have, we're doing really good and we're chasing championships. We have some where we're tanking because it's going into week 8, and we should be, if we're not winning, we should be focusing on how can we get ready to win. And then we've got some in the middle that we're not 100% which way we're going. We're just like you. So sharing and being accountable, Accountable is like, what's my overall, if you've listened to this show for a long time, you know that my hits and Jerry's hits way outweigh our misses. Do we have misses? Of course we do. But I don't feel like putting our team record, my track record is all the success that we've had over the years and not an individual week or year to year.
Hey, you know who deserves a lot of credit for a team record right now that I want to bring up? Neil, our man, who is 14-0 in the Scott Fish Bowl, one of only 20 teams out of like the 3,000 that are in it that is still undefeated.
Neil
Keep
Gray,
going, brother. Let's go.
Neil Gray. If you join our patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone, Neil is our admin. So once you deal with me and I get you in the group chat and I get you all set up, try to help you with your league or whatever it is that you need from a patron standpoint, we turn you over to Neil. And Neil gets you on the list to fill an orphan in 2024. Just a great guy, but he's a passionate Dynasty gamer just like us. So it's a great way to champion one of our own right out of our patron, Neil Gray. Love Neil, good to us, a wonderful Dynasty player, and obviously a redraft seasonal player, even given funky rules. So if you want to give Neil a shout, you can do that on Twitter. It's like at NRG and a bunch of numbers, or you can just come over to the patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. And we're going to get out of here. I don't want to, I'm torn on this one. So I'm going with this version of Dana White tonight.
Federal prison. Federal fucking prison. If you're that fucking stupid and somebody else wants to do it, knock yourself out. There's not enough money in it.
That was the right one. If you're dumb enough to post your win-loss record in every league you're in, you deserve what you get. Now, normally we would have a little bit of Dr. Kyle, but he is still on paternity leave. He's out celebrating being a new dad, and there's not been a catastrophic Dynasty. There's been injuries. There's not been, and thank God, there's not been a lot of catastrophic. There's been injuries. There's plenty. If you're Kyron Williams, Justin Jefferson, now maybe Deshaun Watson, there's been injuries. Maybe we need to get Doc on to talk about the rotator cuff contusion, fancy word for bruise, on the shoulder of Deshaun Watson. Maybe we need to get him on there. But I thought in light of this, and I owe Dallas Hyder, who does rookie content for us, I deleted the file that he sent me on. I think it's Will. I think it's. I'm owning it, Jerry. Talk about your misses. This is me accountable.
It's very Jerry Sinclair.
I'm owning it. I think it's Will Shepard, the wide receiver from West Virginia University, sent me a nice little video on that, and I fucked up. I didn't mean to. I was trying to add it, and somehow I deleted it. Like I do this every week. I add the Dallas clip, and I deleted it. So what we're gonna do is, since we don't have anything from Kyle, and I screwed up and deleted the file from Dallas, I am going to do a little news. We've not done any news lately, but Jerry, two of my favorite quarterbacks, apparently, everything's coming up Memphis. Will Levis, named the starter for the Titans this week. What do you think about my boy Will Levis?
I picked him up in my oldest redraft league, and I'm just in case he wants to pop off and be an animal, I'm ready for it. But here's the thing. Malik Willis is poop. Ryan Tannehill is washed. You drafted Will Levis in the second round. You got to see what you got. I'm ready for it. I'm excited for it. I promise you, when I look at the lineups for NFL matchups on Sundays, when I see the Tennessee Titans, I know that's one of the games I don't have to watch because I'm not excited to watch it. No offense to any Tennessee Titan fans out there, but I promise you I'm going to be looking forward to it with Will Levis.
Speaking of Vegas, last week out in Vegas, in the casinos, in the sports book, they call anything with the Tennessee Titans a corner of the room game. So like on the big TV, you've got the Chiefs, you've got the, used to be the Packers, you've got the Cowboys, and in the corner of the room on like a small 40-inch TV, you've got the Titans, because you got to have it on in the sports book, but that's a corner of the TV, corner of the room TV game. Too.
You
Yeah,
got like a big TV wall. Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
the little corner part of the wall is where the
yeah.
Titans are going.
You just tuck him down in there. But I am excited. I'm not going to get too high, and I'm not going to get too low if he's doing great. Like I didn't get too high when Jordan Love came out and set the world on fire, and I didn't get too low now that he's not been exactly setting the world on fire. You want to give these guys the full sample and reevaluate. You can do it quarterly. You can go up. You can go down. But another guy, and I'll be honest, this guy made me the excellent dynasty player that I am today. And that is none other than Sam Darnold. Looks like Brock Purdy picked up a concussion late in the game against the Vikings on Monday night. And Sam Darnold is in line to start against the Bengals. And I'm thrilled. Now, I don't think I have no illusion that Sam Darnold is going to take this job from Brock Purdy. But Sam Darnold made me a better dynasty gamer when I realized I have to stop rooting for players and recreating the narrative that is their situation. And then sometimes you just can't you just can't force it. And we're going to talk about a coach and an issue here in a minute with forcing it. But I'm excited for a one game. And I'll be honest, and speaking of one of my industry leagues, I'm currently 6th in this league. I'm 4-3. But I'm 4-3 in spite of no Austin Eckler for a time, no Cooper Kupp, no Deontay Johnson. Just lost Kyron Williams, and I've been battling Deshaun Watson in a super flex because he was my QB2. So this is going to help me getting Sam Darnold as my QB2 for the week. At least for the week gives me a Band-Aid. But Sam Darnold taught me to stop falling in love with players. Like players, love winning. So I can like a guy, but now Sam Darnold is the guy that taught me not to hang on too long. You know, you don't hold on to a mistake for too long just because you spent a lot of time making a mistake. Love Sam Darnold, but that's why you just see me quickly move on. You're like, God damn, Memphis, you're moving on from him already? Yep, sure am. And when you hear that in the future, when you're like Quentin Johnston, I was never on him, but I'm clearly off of him. I'm not hanging on anymore, but I'm super excited for Sam Darnold. Jerry, what are your thoughts on Sam this weekend, and are any concern from a week-to-week basis with the skill guys like Ayuk, like Kittle, CMC?
No, I mean, Darnold can get him the ball. Kyle Shanahan's still there. He's not going to take that job, right? Brock Purdy's done everything that he needs to do to keep that job, but
he's not taking it yet.
Oh, all right.
Hey, look, I'm not saying
he's a capable backup. There's a lot of teams that have a shittier situation, and if the backup was in, you would go, okay, I'm not starting these skill position players, and I'm not to that point with Sammy.
I just know this. Kyle Shanahan, since the draft, has been a Sam Darnold fan. And the minute that he came available, he was the reason why I thought Trey McBride, wrong guy. Trey Lance McBride, you know, he's benefiting from the Zach Ertz going on IR this week. So, and I doubled by a little secret side note because of my Freudian slip from my man crush on Trey McBride. If Kyler starts this week, he loves the tight end, and with no Zach Ertz there, could be Trey McBride to the moon. But back to Trey Lance, Sam Darnold and Kyle Shanahan's love for him is part of the reason why I thought Trey Lance would be, you know, the third stringer. I never thought he would get traded. So I'm just excited. I just thought where else can you get this much Sam Darnold talk?
You're not. I don't know if it's justified, but we will find out.
Look, I can still fanboy for one guy. Now, most people fanboy for a guy who's good. I fanboy for a guy who is not good. And you know why? I don't know why I hung on, because I didn't listen. Jerry, you ever get in trouble with your wife or your boss because you didn't listen?
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time. Same. And, you know, when people tell you who they are, you need to listen. Arthur Smith told us 2 years ago who he is. And then he did it again last year. He told us exactly who he is as a coach, as a play caller, and what was going to be the impact on fantasy football. And then he came out today, and this soundbite that he released just has Dynasty and fantasy content creators in a tizzy, for lack of a better word. And I'm like, you're mad because Arthur Smith is Arthur Smith. It's not like he was Sean McVay or Andy Reid and turned into Arthur Smith. You're mad because Arthur Smith is rubbing your nose and being wrong. You were wrong. You thought all of a sudden he was going to take the red pill as opposed to the blue pill, and 2023 was going to start off with Kyle Pitts turning into TJ Hawkinson, and Drake London was going to be Cooper Kupp, and Bijan Robinson was going to be prime Marshall Faulk. And when it didn't happen, it's Arthur Smith's fault. No, dum-dum. It's your fault. It's your fault for convincing yourself that Arthur Smith had changed. So I've already learned my lesson. It's time for you to learn your lesson. When coaches tell you who they are, believe them. This is why Kyron Williams is doing well, because Sean McVay wants to run the ball. And just because everybody's favorite Cam Akers couldn't get the job done for him doesn't mean that unathletic Kyron Williams couldn't. When coaches tell you, and people in your life, this is more than a dynasty thing. When people tell you who they are, listen and don't try to make them something they're not, Jerry. That's my takeaway from the Arthur Smith situation.
That's fine, but you could at least tell me if Bijan Robinson's going to get any fucking snaps at all.
He played. He played. I cashed a bet.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, Gipty fucking Skippy. I get one carry. I couldn't get anything pregame that said Bijan's not going to play, that he's not feeling well. I couldn't get nothing.
But he did play.
Yeah. Okay.
He suited up. He played snap. He had to play snaps in the game for me to get paid on my bet, and he did. He gave it a go.
Arthur Smith into the sun for that catastrophe.
Let me just Ric Flair once said, whether you like it or whether you don't, learn to live with it, because it's the best thing going today. Whether you like Arthur Smith or whether you don't, learn to live with it, because if he wins that division this year, which I believe currently they're in first place, he's not going anywhere to 2025. So from a dynasty standpoint, get your mind right. What you've seen from Drake London is what Drake London is. What you've seen from Kyle Pitts is what Kyle Pitts is. We've seen some really good, and we've seen some really frustrating with Bijan. I think he's more the really good. But going into next year, when you see all these jackwagons on Twitter and putting out all these articles and podcasts talking about how it's, Kyle Pitts breakout year and Drake, it's not. You've seen the best of it. Now, if they get a quarterback upgrade, if something changes, then something can change. But don't go chasing people when they tell you who they are. So Jerry, I'm going to end this. We're going to get into some breakouts. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Sure. I thought for sure you were going to bust out with "Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls," the TLC classic, but it's fine.
I'm not going to. I'll sing on the podcast. I have sung on the podcast. I won't, because I was fired up and I was waiting to play a soundbite, because this is all that I heard when I saw all these whiny boo-boo face Twitter dynasty fantasy analysts.
Go outside, nerd. Get out. Go. I ain't got time to be distracted by your worthless chime-ins. Go on.
God, yeah, Baby Billy is the best.
So many good sound bites from Walton Goggins, period. But let's talk about some breakouts, man. We're about halfway through the show, but we'll go as long as we want. Now, I chopped these up into three buckets. I chopped these up into guys that have kind of broken out, have the draft capital narrative, the draft capital mob are already in full effect, or we've seen some breakouts for them. But these are the guys, especially the next cluster of three and the final cluster of three. These are guys that I really want to talk about. But the first guy is JSN. Had his best fantasy game as a pro last week. No DK Metcalf. This should not have come as a surprise. I still think that he's going cheap enough. There could be a buying window on JSN. What are your thoughts on JSN? Because I think due to his draft capital, his pedigree coming out of Ohio State, that he could be a breakout value if you get him at the right time. What you want if you're looking to acquire JSN is you're looking for DK to come back. You're looking for him to go back as the third banana in that passing game. And then you can buy that dip. But I think he's still cheap enough that you should be able to see. And let's be honest, injuries happen. And Tyler Lockett's well into his 30s. So I am excited, but I think if you want to acquire him, you better do it now in season, because point scoring season will stop. Hype season will start. And this man will be deeply wrapped in the hype conversation as we get into February, March. So I'm excited. I think he's going to break out from a points per game basis, but his price is going to be astronomical.
In the offseason? Yeah, 100%. He's just with his rookie draft capital and everything that goes along with it. Once points scoring season stops, he's absolutely going to go up. It's exactly what I wanted to see. I poo-pooed Jordan Addison a little bit last week when we were on the show with Kevin, because I said with Justin Jefferson out, I wanted to see him in that ceiling type game. You're in a situation where you can show what your ceiling is, and he didn't. Now he did this week, and it was absolutely wonderful to see. And with DK Metcalf out, we got to see Jackson Smith-Njigba for who he is, and he performed exactly the way I wanted to see it. So absolutely excited about it. I would probably wait until DK Metcalf comes back and he's going back to those 2-3 receptions for 40-yard games, and that's when I'm going to make my offer, because Randy, you are so spot on that his value is going to increase when people are not paying attention to 4 catches for 45 yards and they're just thinking JSN first round pick, Seattle, Ohio State wide receiver.
If you just decided, like, maybe you're 4-3 or 3-4, and you're kind of like in like 6th through 8th place in your league, and you've been kind of doing it, you've been, piecing this thing together with bubble gum and shoestrings, and just like you lost Kyron Williams, and now the wheels are going to come off the wagon.
Yep.
Now's a great time to see what can you do to go find a contender that's, and get rid of that last veteran. Go move a second and Adam Thielen and try to get JSN, because you're only going to profit from that move. I'm not saying you'll get that move done, but that's like a great conversation. A non-contending like the 205, 206, and an Adam Thielen who's absolutely crushing it right now during point scoring season. If JSN is a non-integral part of a contender's roster, that's where I'd be snooping around. But this next guy, Jerry, what?
Yep. Nope.
What?
Go ahead.
So this next guy has only played 4 games. He missed the second game of the season. He's missed the last 2 games of the season, and yet he's still RB9 on the season. Funny story, as a rookie, he's scored 1.5 points more on the season playing 3 less games than Bijan Robinson. It's Devon Achane. And this guy has been lightning in a bottle. We know he has the knee injury. He's going to be back in a couple of weeks. I don't think you can buy him now, but he's a guy, I'm telling you right now, if he comes back and he even plays 65%, 70% of what he's doing, and if he still manages to finish as an RB1, a top 12 RB, in spite of, missing games due to injury, I'm telling you, he is going to be thrown into that RB6-ish range in a startup come March. And his value is going to skyrocket. He's the guy, though, that in this offense, if he stays healthy, he could absolutely crush. And he could be a guy that if you have him, or maybe you could acquire him, and you have a league mate who's got Christian McCaffrey, he could be a guy that could be like the antidote to Christian McCaffrey down the stretch. Because he's got a 50-point game, a 27-point game, a 21-point game on his ledger. And on a per-game basis, he's scored more points than Christian McCaffrey. So I love him. His value is going to fluctuate a lot based on injury, health, and how he's contributing in season. But I'm telling you, there's going to be so much buzz around him in the offseason. He's going to be huge for 2024 Dynasty.
100% my biggest buy to sell. I am 100% going to try and buy him while he's hurt and while the hype is still there and sell him in the offseason, because that man's startup value come this time in the summer of this season is going to be silly. Just based on the explosiveness that we've seen, the offense that he's in. He's little. He gets hurt, which is why I am scared about it. But his value has, even if it is slightly dipped, it is worth it because it is not going to stay dipped. It is absolutely going to peak for the remainder of the season and into the offseason and into next year. Absolutely. This is probably the number one person you should be trying to acquire because of an injury. In my opinion, I can't think of anyone else that I would rather do it, because his value is 100% going to be goofy this time next fall.
Well, that is a great segue. I don't know how you do it, but I do know how you do it because you're the best co-host in the game today. My biggest guy that I'm looking to acquire, and I'm not looking to move, is Zay Flowers. And this is as much a move on Lamar as it is on Zay Flowers. I love the offense. Here's the thing. He's not set the world on fire, but he's averaging 13 PPR points a game, and his worst game of the season is an ocho, is 8 points. Now, I don't want an 8 from my wide receiver on a given week, but knowing that a guy's not going to hang a 0 on me, not going to hang a 5 on me, anything like that, he is a guy that is so good. And this is how I want to be attached to Lamar Jackson. I said coming into the season, I was like, don't be surprised if Lamar has a big bounce back. But Lamar is still a running quarterback. Lamar has still been hurt 2 seasons in a row. And I don't know that at cost, I want to hitch my wagon to Lamar Jackson long-term in Dynasty, as in having Lamar Jackson. But I do want to hitch my wagon to Lamar Jackson by having Zay Flowers. I think this passing offense has looked the best it ever has, as long as Lamar has been a pro. And I think Zay Flowers is going to be the beneficiary of that. Big on Zay Flowers. That's why he's my number one buy, because I think that the numbers stay consistent. I think he's going to have a couple of breakouts here or there. And I think he's going to be very highly sought after in the offseason.
I think he is, but I think when you look at the end of the season, I don't think it's going to be super sexy, because what you're seeing right now is that level of consistency, right? Like, you're seeing the floor is so wonderful, but you're not seeing those spike weeks where everybody on Twitter doesn't shut up about Zay Flowers. And when those don't happen, I feel like the offseason value is going to keep it a little bit depressed. And I think he's going to slide under the hype machine a little bit.
Bold take. I'm saying it right now. I don't have a lot of Chris Olave, but if I had a lot of Chris Olave, I am going to trade Chris Olave for Zay Flowers plus. I would absolutely love it. Based on the salary cap and the way Derek Carr's contract is structured, he's not going anywhere the rest of this year or next year. And my fade of Chris Olave, on top of the fact that the gas pedal, he's a big fan of the one on the right, so he likes to smash it. You know, we didn't talk about that in the news, but I don't think that's going to be. Maybe he gets suspended for a game. Who knows? But
yeah,
for me, it's more of a fade of him being attached to Derek Carr, and what does that look like over the next 2 years, as opposed to Zay Flowers with a QB that I love the way the offense is moving. Pittsburgh's offense is coming around. We know how good Cincinnati is. Cleveland can score points. I would love to see Deshaun play better, but I just, there's so many little things that I like about Zay Flowers, and I only think the narrative's going to grow.
I think the other thing that sort of helps his acquirability is they had a stat in the Ravens-Lions game this weekend where Lamar Jackson has not missed a game in weeks like 1 through 11 or something. But then from beyond that, he's missed like 18 games in his career from weeks like 12 to 18. And so if that were to happen again, he would obviously see a dip in production, and that would just further slide him under the narrative. And he has made me look bad. I didn't love Zay Flowers. I didn't like the Lamar Jackson style of offense. He has come in and he's looked better than Hollywood Brown did in that situation, in sort of that same role. I can dig it. I'm with you on that.
All right. Well, speaking of making you look bad, let's go to our trade. Let's go to our trade segment, the Dynasty Trade Corner.
Hey traders, now there are days in our trading career when we as traders trade poorly and end up losing. So on those days, we look for inspiration.
So we're going to figure out if Jerry traded poorly and needs some trading inspiration. So Jerry, this is a league that you're in. You can give all the context. Here is the trade in a vacuum. A.J. Brown and Joe Mixon. You acquired A.J. Brown and Joe Mixon, and you gave up T.J. Hawkinson and Puka Nacua. Do want to note for a little context, this is not, repeat, not tight end premium. Jerry, tell us about this league, tell us about this trade, and tell us about your mindset as you crafted and created this trade.
I actually did not craft and create it. It was sent to me, and I just blatantly accepted it because I am one of the easiest persons in the world to trade with. I will not dilly-dally, and I will not let little nonsense get in the way of a good trade. I will just accept it if I can dig it. In this league, it's a 1 QB non-tight end premium, and I won the first league, and then I made just some of the stupidest, awfulest, piss-poor dynasty strategies you could have ever done. And my team's been bad for about 2 or 3 years, and it's just now starting to get good. I don't think it's still good enough to win, but it is still, I might be able to get a little money out of it. Not first place money, but I can get second or third place money. And it's got good bones. The moral of this story is Joe Mixon for TJ Hawkinson in a non-tight end premium league. I don't care. Like it's fine. I have Michael Mayer. I think I have David Njoku. So like I have bodies that I can put there, and that's fine. As far as AJ Brown for Puka Nacua, I thought, Gerald, you took Puka Nacua in the 4th round of the rookie draft this year. And if you told yourself that on October 25th of this very same year, if you could get AJ Brown straight up for that, do it. And I'm going to do it. I don't know exactly what the situation with the Rams is going forward. I don't know exactly if Matthew Stafford's going to be there for how long, and do I really want to rely on Puka Nacua trying to do that with somebody other than Matthew Stafford, the absolute greatest beneficiary of wide receiver production in the history of Dynasty? No, I'll just take AJ Brown.
Yeah, speaking of AJ Brown, in the patron group chat this week, you guys, and when I say you guys, I really mean producer Kevin and Dr. Kyle, along with the patrons, were razzing me because I was fading AJ Brown this year. And I was like, well, gosh, I didn't know that when Shane Steichen went to be the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts that they were going to promote AJ Brown to the offensive coordinator, because from week 2 on, week 2, if you remember, that was the Minnesota game, he made the boo-boo face on the sidelines and he was yelling at Jalen Hurts. Since that moment, he's gotten 59 targets. He is literally we did the math in the patron chat the other day. He's getting a 65% of the all wide, not just of between him and Devonta Smith, but like all 65% of all wide receiver targets in that offense in the last 5 games have went to him. So I didn't know that, but from this trade standpoint, you got a guy who can win you weeks. And over the last 4 weeks, I mean, since the boo-boo face incident, 22, 38.5, 19, 20, 30. We'll round up. And he's done that, with only 3 touchdowns in that 5-game stretch, but he's had no less than 127 yards. You got a real difference maker. I didn't like giving up Hawkinson because even in non-tight end premium, they're just so hard to get a tight end that's getting currently 6-8 catches a game, it feels like, every week. And it just feels like, and I asked you before we hit the record button, I was like, hey, look, dude, you got who else? You like? I got Michael Mayer. He's coming up. If I'm you, I'm going to kick the tires on like a Trey McBride. Can I get like a bullpen of tight ends and maybe play some matchups and give yourself some flexibility? But I do not fault you for getting AJ Brown, even though I was fading him to begin the season. But again, I didn't know about his promotion. Congratulations. I hope he's getting pay for being the offensive coordinator.
For a guy who has a ton of Devonta Smith, too, it sort of pisses me off. But anyway, moving on.
We're gonna. So, you know what, Jerry? It's like you actually read the goddamn show sheet this week. So the next pocket of breakouts, top of the list. I'm looking right at the sheet. This is the group that has kind of broken out, but they've not all the way broken out. Like the last couple of games, we've seen more of Michael Mayer. He had a 2-catch game. He had a 5-catch game. He had a 2-catch game. I was a little surprised by the most recent 2-catch game, especially given how bad they were trailing. But Brian Hoyer gonna Brian Hoyer. He's a guy that was one of the most dominant tight ends in the history of Player Profiler. If you go to Player Profiler and look at his dominator rating, he's up there with the best of them. Actually, Trey McBride is too, but that's a different story for a different day. Just a super talented guy. And I know people hate Josh McDaniels, and that's fair. You should. He's got a very punchable face. I will not argue that. But I've also seen Josh McDaniel make multiple tight ends throughout his career very, very valuable for fantasy. So I think Michael Mayer is going to be a good tight end. I think maybe we're a year away from being a year away, but he's definitely someone like we're in a league together, Jerry and I. And by the way, I'm in 5th place in this league for those needing accountability. We must start 2 tight ends in that league. And I've been able to start starting him. You know, I've been starting Evan Ingram because I was ahead of the curve on Evan Ingram. There's some accountability for you. And then I had Hunter Henry, but now I've got Michael Mayer to mix in, and I'm feeling really good because in a start 2 tight end league, you should be banking extra tight ends when you can. And I'm really excited because initially I drafted him over Sam Laporta in this league, but I don't know that he'll hit Laporta levels, but I'm a big fan of Michael Mayer.
I mean, I just traded away TJ Hawkinson so I could rely on him going forward in a league that I'm a playoff contender. So I tend to agree with you. I don't know if he's ever going to be one of those absolute animals at the position, but it seems like he's going to be at least relevant and startable. He's going to be one of those guys that Matthew Berry and Clay and all of them talk about as the guy that you can stream on your redraft league for the next decade. I mean, that's a little hyperbole, but that's just what it feels like. It feels like one of those guys that if you don't get one of the top 2 or 3, he's going to be one of the guys that you're starting. And if I can grab that for pretty reduced value, just because the production is not exquisite as a rookie, which is standard for Dynasty rookie tight ends, I'm going to do it every time.
Yeah, I'm going to bank on Michael Mayer being really good in a couple of years. I don't want to go as far as to call him the next TJ Hawkinson, but if the Raiders could just ever get their quarterback and stop doing what the Colts did forever and just band-aid the position, that would be great. And another guy that I kind of have him in the broken out class, but really hasn't broken out. It's Rashee Rice. And he was a guy that good friend of the show, and he's been on the show, John Sheps. He really liked Rashee Rice. He saw him down at the Senior Bowl this past February, and John thought that he was the goods. And while he's not set the PPR board on fire, he's had 3 straight games with over 11 PPR points. And certain guys like John and guys that have been touting Rashee Rice since February, they're starting to toot their own horn a little bit. But I think given this offense and the fact that the Chiefs, with what they paid Kelsey and with what they paid Patrick Mahomes, there's always going to be the need for cheap skill position guys. And I really wanted this person to be Sky Moore. Clearly, it feels like it's not going to be Sky Moore, but I think it's going to be Rashee Rice, Jerry. What are your thoughts on Rashee Rice?
100%. For a lot of the reasons that you said about the contracts and trying to form an offense from guys that have such giant chunks of your budget. But also he's looked pretty good. I mean, he's never going to be Travis Kelce. I mean, Travis Kelce at 33 years old, I think he had like 130 yards in the first half. Like, listen, when Taylor Swift is watching you at halftime, I didn't want to bring her up, but I gotta. And he's playing for the girl. Bless his sweetheart. Those of us that have him starting in our tight end position are super thrilled about it. But Rice has been good. Rice has been the guy on that offense who's not Travis Kelce who's not looked like a total boob, because just about everyone else has pooped their pants out on the field with Patrick Mahomes throwing them the ball. So it just seems like he is going to be the direction that they're going to go forward with. I don't know if he's going to be there for a long time, but he's definitely going to be there for a good time, and I will take it.
Yeah, and there's still time. A good time to move on Rashee Rice is now. He's got some buzz. I think he's the one. We knew someone was going to break out. I put my chips on Sky Moore. Looks like that's not going to be the correct one. It looks like it's going to be Rashee Rice. And if anything happens to a Travis Kelce, we don't want to, but if something happens to him, does he become the primary weapon for a Patrick Mahomes offense? Trust me, as a guy who's lived in Indianapolis for my entire life and been a Colts fan, I saw Peyton Manning drag many a mediocre to slightly above mediocre wide receiver to prominence. This is, hello, Brandon Stokely, I'm talking to you. So I've Anthony Gonzalez. I've seen this happen before, where an elite QB can drag a wide receiver to prominence. But Jerry, what do you know about Tajae Spears? Because you know what I know about Tajae Spears? He's had a couple of good games. Nothing great. He had a 16-point game. He had a game where he out-touched Derrick Henry. And do you know what's this coming Tuesday? It's actually two things. Do you know what's this coming Tuesday?
Is it the trade deadline?
That's one. Do you know the other one? It's Halloween. It's Halloween. And the treat that Tajae Spears GMs could get is if Derrick Henry is traded, because then he becomes the bell cow in this offense. And I was looking online. I like to peruse the news as we get ready to start the show. And after the Titans traded Kevin Byard and Will Compton and a couple of other veterans, it only feels like Rand Carthen, the GM of the Titans, has like, you know what? We're going to see what we got with Will Levis. We're going to get rid of these old guys. We're going to clear up some salary cap. We're going to get some more rookie picks, and we're going to go ahead and soft reboot / tank. Because if Will Levis is bad, then you'll have a higher draft pick, and maybe you can get in the Drake May, Shador Sanders, Quinn Ewers, Michael Penix Jr. sweepstakes. The other teams in your division, with the Colts with Richardson and the Texans with Stroud and the Jags with T-Law, you're the one team in the division who doesn't have the young quarterback of the future unless it's Will Levis. So why not let Will Levis do his thing, and why not let Tajae Spears do his thing? I don't want to go with, because it's so hyperbolic and so overstated, but this is the potential to be like that PPR, not league winning, but the kind of guy that bridges bye weeks, fills in for some injury gaps, even in season. And if he does that, the hype on him to break out in 24 is going to be huge.
100%. I mean, he's caught a lot of passes. He's been productive when he's rushed the ball. It's an offense that obviously likes to run it. Now, that is probably due to the fact that Derrick Henry exists and he is a cyborg and not of this species. But still, he's been productive enough for you to be happy and like the sign of things that are going forward, but also hasn't been productive enough for the fantasy community to go nuts over, which creates this nice little pocket where you can acquire him and hope for, he's not going to cost you a ton, and the upside is there. And even if you don't believe in Tajae Spears, the upside is still there. So the opportunity to sell him later, if you're not a believer, is still going to present itself at some point during the offense or in the offseason. And if you do like him, go acquire him now and you're good to go. The dude had a 48-yard reception. He's had multiple games with multiple receptions. He's got a pretty decent yards per attempt when it comes to rushing the ball. DeAndre Hopkins is or not Hopkins, excuse me. Derrick Henry, I'm thinking of other old washed up people. How long is he really going to stay there? Even if he doesn't get traded, Randy, he's not a focal point of this offense going forward. There's just no way.
Listen, I agree. And, I think Rand Carthen's doing the right thing in that seeing what the young guys have. What does Will Levis have? What if for some luck or happenstance they're able to trade Ryan Tannehill to Atlanta? I would just love to see the meltdown. As a matter of fact, if I'm the Bears, I steer into this tank. I try and trade Justin Fields to Atlanta. That would be that would make me giddy as a schoolgirl to see a team with Justin Fields and Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts and Drake May, but it's coached by Arthur Smith. I just love it. I just laugh my fool ass off. And but anyway, I want to take a second again to apologize to Dallas. He did a great video. I watched it. I did a little editing to it. I was uploading it. And what happened is I deleted it out of StreamYard where he recorded it because I had already downloaded it onto my computer. And then instead of uploading it, I deleted the download. So that's completely on me. It was good stuff. The prospect was Will Shepherd with 2 P's, by the way. Will Shepherd, 2 P's, wide receiver out of West Virginia. So if you see that name, you know what? Do me a favor. You can do me a favor. You can make up for my mistake. Pretty simple stuff. I want you to go to Twitter. I want you to find Salad Galore, SALLAD Galore, Salad Galore, at Salad Galore, and tell him Memphis screwed up and ask him about Will Shepherd. Jerry, does that feel like a fair way to make amends? And follow him while you're there, for the love of God.
Yeah, that's true. I'm with you. It seemed for your nincompoopery, it seems fair.
You're helping me. You're helping yourself. You're following a really smart Devy/Dynasty/rookie guy. There's no losers here except me. I'm the loser. I screwed up. I deleted a file. I'm owning it. Jerry, let's jump into the 3 guys that haven't really broke out or done a lot. Kind of one guy has. But Kendre Miller. He is, there's a famous line in The Sopranos. I don't have that as a sound drop, but his Uncle Junior, when he was the boss, he said, Tony is 1 sea hair away from running all of North Jersey, and I am that sea hair. The sea hair in this question is Alvin Kamara. He is getting an A.J. Brown level. We've made A.J. Brown a unit of measure now, by the way. He's getting an A.J. Brown level of targets in his 4 games back from suspension. 39 targets in 4 games. Wow. Holy cow. Dude, it's wild. He's caught 35 of them, by the way. And we know the 2 other running backs in New Orleans. One is Jamal Williams. Yeah, he could steal some goal line work. But the one that I think this team would really want to see is Kendre Miller. They invested a decent draft pick for him, and he's looked good in limited snaps. But I will say this, the Saints are currently $80 million over the 2024 salary cap. And if they cut like all of the dead weight, including Alvin Kamara, who doesn't have a huge dead cap number and has a big cap hit, like Alvin Kamara is probably going to be gone. And what we talk about with Patrick Mahomes and that team, you're going to need cheap skill position guys. And where's a better place to scrimp and save than the running back position? They're going to be using their other draft picks to try and, triage some holes created by all the cuts and maneuvering they'll have to do in the offseason. He's not done a lot. I don't know that he costs a lot, but I'm looking to get some more Kendre Miller.
I wanted to see more. And I think the amount that Alvin Kamara has done gives me a little bit, in the sense that maybe they believe that is what that role is going to be in that offense. But even with Alvin Kamara out, and at one point Jamal Williams was out, we had the opportunity to see the ceiling, and I didn't see anything that was a killer. So I liked Kendre Miller coming in. I think I am actually less involved in him now. I'm fine going out and getting him just because that opportunity could exist in the future. I just don't know if they entirely think he's going to be the guy. And if he's not the guy, and I can't start him as a flex in my championship week, which I don't know that I'm going to be able to do even next year, it's tough.
Oh, first of all, he's already had 8 targets in 4 games. He's played 4 games, and he's had 8 targets, and he caught 4 of them in one game for 53 yards. So I'm just saying he's not anyone that's going to be valuable now, but I'm telling you, if you get him right now, even if you never plug him into a lineup, if you get him now and the Saints release Alvin Kamara or trade Alvin Kamara in the offseason, you might as well slap a rocket ship to this guy's back because he's going to the moon. That's why I'm predicting he's going to break out in 24 from both a dynasty value standpoint, and as long as Derek Carr is going to be the quarterback, captain checkdowns locked in there because he gets paid $1 bajillion, but his dead cap number is an equally large amount of $1 bajillion. That's 12 zeros. Let's go to Michael Wilson. Now, I talked all the smack about you and Kev giving me grief. I will say Kev gave me some flowers as it relates to Michael Wilson. I just, like I said, you're either better than, different than, or the same as. And he is clearly different than. And we've not even seen him play with Kyler Murray yet. Maybe we do this week. Maybe we don't. I don't know. Jerry, I've been big on Michael Wilson all season. I still am. What about you?
I have not, but I am now. His production has definitely turned my direction over there. I'm excited to see what he can do with Kyler, though. Listen, Dobbs has been okay. I mean, they're not winning, but he's been better than I thought he was going to be, at least. And we'll see what Kyler looks like. But there's not a lot of mouths to feed, to use a cliche, in that offense.
I don't have a cliche alert sounder. I don't.
But honestly, there's not. So the target share is there. And if Kyler is going to be remotely close to what he has been, that's a good situation. Zach Ertz is gone now too. I mean, listen, Trey McBride is there, and Hollywood exists, but Hollywood's always been just good at
not good at football.
Just peeking right into relevance. You're like, oh, there he is. I can play him. And then when you play him, he's dog crap. And then you put him on the bench, and then he goes for 80 yards and a touchdown. Then you put him back in, he's crap again. So the opportunity is there. I'm with you. And he's cheap, mostly because his name is Michael Wilson. And everybody went to school with a guy named Michael Wilson, and it just doesn't sound like an NFL player. I can dig it.
Funny story. My brother beat up a guy named Michael Wilson.
See what I'm saying?
In our younger days. I like the targets. He's had a 5-target game. He had 3 catches in that game, 4 target, 7 target. Not horrible. He's only had 27 targets on the season, but he's got 67 PPR points. I really like the value there. And now this guy, I'm telling you, Jerry, I'm going to end the show with a Colts bold prediction. Are you ready? This is the guy who the dynasty community is going to label as a breakout in 2024, but they're going to label him a breakout based on a false narrative. Are you ready?
Okay.
It's Joshua Downs. It's Josh Downs of the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Josh Downs in and of the entire season, he had a couple of good games, but in the last 3 weeks, since Gardner Minshew has started the last 3 weeks against the Titans, against the Jags, and against the Browns, and even against the Ravens, you know what those 4 games all have in common?
What's that?
Every one of those games, he scored more than 13 PPR points per game. His only single-digit PPR, the other 3 games of the year, were games started by Anthony Richardson. So, and I know in that Titans game, I know that Anthony Richardson started the game and then Gardner came in late. I'm just telling you, the last 3 games when Gardner came in, his targets have been 6, 8, 6. And in the Ravens game, oh, by the way, quarterbacked by Gardner Minshew, he had 12 targets. So here's a guy, here's a rookie. I feel like John Madden. Now here's a guy, or is that anyway? 47 targets, 85 PPR points. And over the last 3 weeks, the 3 weeks that I mentioned, the game that was split between Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew, in that 3 week time frame, You're talking about the wide receiver 11, ahead of his teammate, Michael Pittman Jr., and a guy that I think this trend's probably going to continue. I think Indy's going to continue to be behind. Gardner's going to continue to pass because he doesn't run as much as, even though he had 2 rushing touchdowns this past week. I just think that you're going to hear a lot of false narratives. And the pushback that I'm already going to give you is that I want to see it with Anthony Richardson in this offense. Jerry, what are your thoughts on Josh Downs? Because I don't know that you were probably, I bet you didn't know that over the last 3 games, he was a top 12, a wide receiver 1 in that 3-week small sample.
I didn't know. I did know that he did really well this week because somebody used him against me, and he absolutely crushed my soul, which was absolutely horrifying. I like Josh Downs, and I agree with you that I want to see what he looks like with Anthony Richardson, but also he's always going to be a value just because he wasn't a first-round rookie pick. And dynasty players will get absolutely nipple-tingling horny about a second-round rookie pick when it's rookie season. But once that season starts, the person that they have there, it seems like it takes them more to be able to explode. If Jackson Smith-Njigba was doing what Josh Downs is doing so far this season, JSN would be a top 8 wide receiver in Dynasty. And that's...
I'm telling you, because I'm looking at it right now, over the last 3 weeks, all rookies, regardless of position, over the last 3 weeks, the only rookie to have scored more points than Josh Downs is Jordan Addison. I'm telling you, if this guy's name was Rashee Rice, because he'd have the Patrick Mahomes corollary, if his name was Michael Mayer, your point, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Quentin Johnston, but we all know Quentin Johnston wasn't good from the get-go.
Ain't good enough.
The only person that would get less credit than Josh Downs is Michael Wilson.
Yeah,
for having the
Michael
passer.
Wilson.
But I'm telling you, if this small sample continues with Gardner, and he continues and he finishes as like a top 18 wide receiver, people are like, imagine what he's going to do with Anthony Richardson. Well, that's all you can do is imagine. So I think if you can get him now, I think obviously you can use him. Bye weeks coming up, injuries coming up. You can clearly plug him into your lineups. But he's a guy that I'll be, for all the downs that I have, I'll be looking to move in the offseason. Because I think he's
an acquire to move.
He is. It's like Zay Flowers is an acquire to keep. And it's not that he can't be good with Anthony Richardson. He could be even better. I don't know. I'm not one of those dynasty or fantasy analysts that pretend to know the outcome of every sequence of events ever. Never going to operate that way. That's not who I am. But it could happen and it could be better. I just know that the value that I think he's going to have in 2024 is going to be built on a narrative that I don't know if it's repeatable. And that is why I'm acquiring him now, because I can use him now. He can, like I said, he can bridge some injuries and some buys.
But I think the narrative that you're saying, that if he can do this with Gardner Minshew, imagine what he's going to be able to do with Anthony Richardson, is 100% going to be used, and it creates an inflated value. I can dig your argument.
And I want him to be good. I'm a Colts fan.
Right.
I mean, it only stands for me as my fandom for him to be really good. I just think that from a dynasty standpoint, you're going to be able to go out and get a proven piece this time next year. And you might be even like, I could easily see you getting Terry McLaurin for Josh Downs in March. I could see you getting Chris Godwin. I could see you getting a guy like that if this trend of success continues. And not to say that I always want the old guy, but if you go to the wide receiver position, and Lord God, can we trade Terry McLaurin to a contender? But you look at all the wide receivers. It's never the young guy as the wide receiver one. It's Tyreek Hill, 30. Stephon Diggs, almost 30. A.J. Brown, mid-20s. Keenan Allen in his 30s. DJ Moore in year 6. Adam Thielen missed a game, 33.
107 years old.
Yeah, Devontae Adams is in the top 10. You do have some younger guys in there, but my point is that if you can get that veteran in March for Josh Downs, like a 28-year-old Terry McLaurin, that could be the move. So I don't want to poo-poo him, Jerry, but that's just where my mind went with Josh Downs.
Nope, I can dig it. I think that's actually kick-ass strategy.
I've done this a time
every
or two
once in a while
because I've played a time or two, but I think it's time that we get the hell out of here. I have got some editing to do, and I've got to finish working on a patron podcast. I'm doing a patron podcast. Here you go. For all you Dynasty content creators that listen to this show, you can do this on your free show. I'm doing this on the patron show. You ready, Jerry?
Yep.
Patron only, patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. Panic or patience? They sent me a list of young guys, old guys, underperforming guys, all of these guys. And I'm probably going to do this over a couple of weeks because I can either go through and bullet point it and go patience, panic, patience, or I can go through here and I can do 4 or 5 at a time and do this over the next couple of weeks for our patrons. Patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. Jerry, you can throw one at me and I'll give you a sample right here. A freebie.
Well,
it's like I'm gonna be like the Costco, the old
I have
lady.
one.
I'm up like I got like the little skewers. So give me your player. I'll put a skewer in him and I will sample panic or patience.
Devonta Smith.
Devonta Smith is patience. It's patience. These things are cyclical. It's patience. The problem with Devonta Smith is that he is always going to be, is it his game to be the number 2? Again, A.J. Brown, didn't realize this, is the new offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. So you just have to hope that on a given week, is it a DeAndre Swift week? Is it a Dallas Goedert week? Or is it a Devonta Smith week? That consistent week in, week out performance that you were getting when Shane Steichen was calling the plays last year is probably gone, but have some patience. It's only been 5 games.
Look at this guy, like a true professional thinking on his toes.
And Devonta Smith was one of the ones. I wasn't going to do that one tonight, but that's what we're doing. Panic or patience for the patrons at Dynasty WarZone's Patreon, patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. And I got through all those P's, push and P, without any slippages. But Jerry, let's take this one in for a landing. Let's get the hell out of here and go do some more fun stuff.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Well, listen, on behalf of that guy, and shout out to producer Kevin, thanks for all that you do behind the scenes. We're going to get out of here. We're going to go do some more show. But if you stuck around this long, you might want to know about the Injury Finder. We'll catch you next week. And remember, here at the Dynasty WarZone, we're just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. Thanks, guys.
Now, as we at Player Profiler have become a full-blown machine learning company, the crowning achievement has to be the Injury Finder. We're now taking BMI data and injury history data and assigning a probability that a player is injured on any given touch. And not only can you see a player's fragility rating, their injury risk, we also have analysis from professional physical therapists breaking down all the major players that underwent surgery last year and what their rehabilitation looks like heading into 2023. There's a tool to compare players. There's a database where you can say, show me all the foot injuries, show me all the severe injuries, show me all the injuries requiring surgery. It provides you the key market intelligence to know what is the difference in probability that player X versus player Y will miss games this year. It's great for fantasy football, and it also just satisfies your curiosity as a fan. Go to the App Store, go to Google Play, download it. It's $5 every year just to reload the latest injury predictions and fragility ratings. The 2023 data is live now. Open your phone and get smarter.